We learned how to change decimals to fractions yesterday. Today, we're going to switch it around. We're going to change fractions to decimals, and this is part 1. Okay, so this is the easiest way to change fractions to decimals. Now, there's a little Superman symbol because when you think of Superman, you think of superpowers, right? So when you think of Superman, you think of powers. Well, when you're changing fractions to decimals, you also think of powers. Let me explain. So first, you make an equivalent fraction to the fraction that you have. You make an equivalent fraction by changing the denominator to a power of 10. Now, the powers of 10 are 10 to the first power, which is 10, 10 to the second power, which is 100, 10 to the third power, which is 1,000, right? So these are the powers of 10, 10, 100,000, and it keeps going, 10,000, 100,000, millions. So you change the denominator into a power of 10. Okay, then you convert the fraction to a decimal because decimals come in powers of 10. So if you look, remember in the front of the classroom, there's your decimal, and they come in powers of 10. Behind the decimal, it's tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and so forth. So decimals are in powers of 10. So if you can get your fraction to be a power of 10, then it's easy to write as a decimal. Okay, so why do we do this? Because decimal place values come in powers of 10. So let's look at a few of these as examples. Okay, so we've got 2/5, which is not in tenths. It has to be in tenths, hundreds, or thousands, right? So if we can get this fraction to have a denominator of a 10, 100, or 1,000, then it's easy to write as a decimal. So how can we change that 5 to tenths, hundreds, or thousands? Well, we can easily change 5 to tenths by multiplying it by 2. But of course, to keep it the same, to make an equivalent fraction, you got to do the same thing to the numerator. Okay? Because 2 over 2 is really 1, so you're really multiplying 2/5 times 1, which still gives you 2/5. So then it gives you an equivalent fraction. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. So now we have 4 tenths. 4 tenths is the same thing as 2/5. But now that we have it as 4 tenths, it's easy for us to write it as a decimal. Remember, decimals come in tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10,000. So since it's 4 tenths, that 4 will be right in the tenths place. So then, the tenths place is right behind the decimal, and since it's 4 tenths, that's how you write the decimal. It's 4 in the tenths place. Let's look at a half. A half, we can multiply it by 5 over 5. Get the denominator to be 10. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 tenths. 5 tenths, the 5 would be in the tenths place, just like the 4. So that's 5 tenths. Now, most of you guys have already memorized that half is 0.5 because you see it a lot in money. When you have 0.5, that's like having 50 cents, and 50 cents is half of a dollar. So 0.5, half, 5 tenths. 3/4 is also one that some of you guys have memorized. When you see fourths, you think quarters. Why? Because 4 quarters make up a dollar, 100 cents, right? So we can actually get the 4 to 100 by multiplying it by 25. So then we do the same thing to the top to keep the fraction equivalent. This would be 75 out of 100, which 3/4 out of 4 quarters is 75 cents, 75 hundredths, and then the hundredth spot is 2 spaces behind the decimal. So your 75 hundredths must fit in the hundredth spot. So that would be 75 hundredths, which looks like 75 cents, right? That's why when you see fourths, you think quarters. 4 quarters make a dollar. If you only have 3 out of 4 quarters, you have 75 cents. Last, eighths. Now with eighths, nothing times 8 equals 10, and nothing times 8 equals 100. But there is a special number times 8, which can get you to 1,000. That is 125. And we're going to be doing a lot of eighths throughout the year. So you're going to be memorizing all your eighths. You're going to know when you see a fraction with eighths, you can multiply by 125 to get it to 1,000. 8 times 125 is 1,000, so you got the 1,000 on the denominator. 3 times 125 is 375. So you have 375 thousandths. Thousandths is 3 places behind the decimal. Tenths, hundredths, and then thousandths. So 375 thousandths would be 3 spots behind the decimal. So your 375 has to fit in the thousand spot. So that would be 375 thousandths. So to change fractions to decimals, you got to get the denominator to a power of 10. It's got to be either tenths, hundredths, or thousandths. Then it's very easy for you to write it as a decimal.